Hey guys, Paul here from familywheels.ca, and this week instead of a car review, instead let's look at what we can tow behind the family car. This is the newest member of the family, the Shasta Airflyte. We just picked it up a couple of weeks ago. We've done a couple of trips in it now. It might look like an old school trailer to you, and it does have the throwback to a 1961 Shasta, but it's actually an anniversary edition, and there were a limited number of them made. There are still some of them for sale out there. A lot of the same design put into this new version, but also some really clever new technologies, and I want to show you what I'm talking about. I always see the sides of these back. Now, one of the things, of course, when it comes to towing around a trailer like this with a family car, like our Volvo, for example, is that you're not going to be able to have, a huge trailer. And so we were really having to shop around looking for what could work for us in our Volvo, because the towing capacity for that car is still decent at 3,300 pounds, but certainly not big enough that we could, have some huge behemoth towing behind us. And when we started to look at the options that were out there, things like the R-Pod, for example, which is a very popular lightweight choice, we just weren't as satisfied with the build quality, and it was also really tight on the inside. So when we found this Shasta, which weighs in at just 2,400 pounds, which I find remarkable, we actually had way more headroom, way more space, a lot more counter space on the inside, and all the rest. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. We're gonna head inside, turn on the lights. And yeah, check it out. We're pretty psyched on this thing. Lots of counter space. That was one of the things that stood out for us right away. And it's got that sort of old school diner look to it, hey? Like this great big dinette up front. Those old school curtains up front as well. This checkerboard floor. It's a real throwback, but still has some pretty modern technologies on board, like this 3-burner stove, which is unusual for a trailer of this size, because a lot of times they're just 2-burner stoves comes along with it. That means that you can really cook a fairly decent meal in here, along with this modern microwave, a great big fridge. Now, it is a fairly small trailer, 16 feet in total. It means that there's a second bed in the back, and if you look at some company literature, it suggests that you could sleep 4 adults in here, but this little gaucho, as it's called, is pretty tiny. It measures out at just shy of 5 feet, so it'd be good for a little kid, but certainly like a couple of adults or a full-size adult's going to have a hard time fitting in here. But it does fold out and become a second bed. Now, one of the things that's annoying is that when that gaucho is fully pulled out, you actually aren't able to open the bathroom door. Seems like a pretty serious oversight to me, but Shasta's saying that they wanted to stay as true to the original dimensions as possible, so that meant that when that little extra piece of bedding slides out there, that all of a sudden you can't get in there. So what we decided to do was make some modifications of our own. Roger's not so big right now that he needs a full slide out there, so we've put this bar up that can pop in and out depending on whether you're using the bed or not. It means that he won't fall out. We've also put this curtain up, which creates a bit of a darker space for him, because I don't know about you, but for our little guy, if it's light at all in the trailer, you're not going to have much luck getting him down. And that means that we've also put up some plywood in the back windows that can come out really easily, but just keeps it nice and dark there for him. So a couple like little hacks that we've done to make this work, because it is a smaller trailer for our little family anyway. And you can see here too that we've made better use of space by buying one of those cloth shoe racks that you can get to put on the back of a door, and we're using it for things like bathroom supplies, garbage bags, that sort of thing. Oh, and then on our first trip we also drained the large 12-volt RV battery pretty quickly. We generally camp off the grid, so we're not plugging in when we headed to the campground. And we found that that thing was just draining so quickly. So instead, we got a couple of much larger 6-volt batteries, tied them together, and turned them into one great big 12-volt. And we were out for a couple of full-on days, making meals, listening to the Bluetooth stereo, which there is one in here. I love that feature as well. And doing all that kind of stuff. And we didn't even put a dent in those batteries. So it does make a big difference going to a couple of 6-volts. Another thing that seemed just a little bit strange to me is that there's no spare tire mounted on the back bumper. So if you get a flat, you're kind of stuck unless you keep that spare tire in your tow vehicle, or what we've done for now, although I think we are going to get something welded onto that back bumper, is just keep it underneath the table there. Not ideal if you've got, you know, 4 adults coming over for dinner, but you know, if Roger's just a little guy and he's not actually touching the floor yet, not such a big deal. But that does seem like a kind of a weird thing to me in terms of safety and trying to, you know, just stay that true to the original look. But this trailer does tow very well. I was a little worried with our Volvo that we might wind up having to get things like sway control installed, which is a bit of a pain every time you pull up to a campground, you want to disconnect. There's a fairly big process to getting the vehicle actually taken off of your trailer, but it tows so well and so straight that in our case, obviously every car is going to be different, we haven't had to bother doing that. And even with our little Volvo station wagon, it's really been a non-issue. All in all though, we are just loving this thing. I mean, I love the exterior look on it too. There are so many bland, boring trailers out there these days. They all kind of look the same. And this one really doesn't. You can tell that Shasta has kind of a labor of love for them. It's got a lot of the original exterior design cues, including this old school iconic wing off the back. We've got, you know, a Shasta logo taken right from the original right here. We have that old school magazine rack, which again was pulled right from the original design. I just think that this is a very different idea of what you can do for a family trailer on the weekends. And a lot of people are saying to me, oh, what an amazing restore, but it's not. It's actually brand new and has, you know, full LED lighting. There's a built-in exterior speaker built right into that little vent right there, so you can hang out on the picnic table and, you know, listen to tunes while, you know, your kid's going to bed. There's so much cool stuff about this trailer, and it's just a little bit different. So I wanted to show it to you. Next week on the program, we're back to kind of our regular thing, reviewing cars, and it's the new Toyota Sienna minivan. So we'll see how that one stacks up for family life. That's in about 7 days. Until then, have a great week, and make sure to check out familywheels.ca.